AITA for telling my dad's parents that I don't want them at my graduation when they said I wasn't their real grandson. In November, my 18M, dad's parents, and my mom got into an argument because they said they decided to start a college fund for my brother 11M. It wasn't even brought up, they just decided to share it on their own. My mom was confused since they mentioned it out of the blue, but thanked them. She asked them why they decided to make one now and why they brought it up. They said something about wanting to do it for their grandson and making sure he's set, so he doesn't have to worry about paying for college. My mom then asked if they had started one for me, and they said I wasn't their real grandson. So the answer was no, and they didn't have one for me. They added something about how I'd get something else and accused my mom of expecting too much. For context, my dad adopted me when I was 5. He started dating my mom when I was 2. I don't know my biological father personally, but I know of him. He died when I was 3, and my mom told me he wasn't a good person and was in and out of jail. My dad is the only dad I've ever known, and I always thought his parents accepted me. But hearing them basically say I wasn't their real grandson hurt. It wasn't even about the money. It was the fact that I was excluded, and realizing the only reason why was because I wasn't my dad's biological son. The argument happened right in front of me and my brother, just a few days before Thanksgiving. Since then, I've viewed my dad's parents differently and tried to keep my distance from them. They eventually apologized for saying I wasn't their real grandson, but only because my dad basically forced them to. Over time, I realized I didn't really care anymore, but I just loved them more than they loved me. School is almost back in, and I take senior pictures soon. My dad's parents were over for Christmas, and my parents brought up me taking pictures. That led to my dad's parents talking about how excited they were to see me graduate and how they couldn't wait. This confused me. It honestly did, because a month ago they basically told me that I wasn't their real grandson, and now they're excited to see their grandson graduate. I told them that they weren't coming, and that I didn't want them there. Of course, this shocked my parents and my dad's parents. They asked why, and I told them I remember them saying I wasn't their real grandson, so it doesn't make sense for them to want to come to my graduation when they have no ties to me. My dad looked upset, and his parents were too. His parents basically said I should move on since they already apologized and meant no harm. I told them that when they apologized, it was only because my dad told them to. After that, it got awkward. This happened during Christmas, and I haven't seen them since. My dad told me they're hurt by what I said and that I should apologize and let them know I didn't mean it and that I'd still like them to come. I told him I meant what I said and that I don't want them there. It's not like I can stop them from coming anyway, but I prefer if they didn't since they have no reason to be there. He says their feelings are hurt. It's honestly embarrassing to think they've been my grandparents my whole life, only to find out they didn't even think of me as their grandson. My mom says she agrees with me, but thinks I should consider my dad's feelings since this puts him in a hard position, and wants everyone to be family. I'm not trying to hurt my dad, but I just don't want his parents at my graduation when I just found out they didn't accept me. Update. First, thank you to everyone who commented on my original post. It helped to know I wasn't alone in feeling this way, and hearing your perspectives gave me a lot to think about. I wanted to share what's happened since Christmas, as things have unfolded in ways I didn't fully expect. After the awkward Christmas confrontation, things between my dad and me got tense. He didn't outright blame me for what I said, but he was clearly upset. He kept saying things like, "They're not perfect, but they're still your grandparents, and you're going to regret shutting them out someday." I think he was genuinely torn. On one hand, he understood why I felt hurt. On the other, he wanted me to let it go so we could all pretend things were fine. My mom, on the other hand, was more supportive. She told me I had every right to feel how I did, but reminded me that my dad was caught in the middle and probably feeling guilty, even though none of this was his fault. For a while, I avoided talking to my grandparents. I focused on school, senior photos, and planning for my future. But in the back of my mind, their words kept replaying. I couldn't stop thinking about how easily they dismissed me as not their real grandson. It wasn't about the college fund or the money. It was about what their words revealed about how they truly saw me. In mid-January, my dad told me my grandparents wanted to talk. I wasn't thrilled about the idea, but I agreed to meet with them because I wanted to see if they were genuinely sorry or just trying to smooth things over. We sat down at my parents' house, and they started off by apologizing again for what they said. "We didn't mean to hurt you," my grandmother said. "It was wrong of us to say you're not our real grandson. We've always thought of you as family." It sounded nice, but it felt hollow. I asked them, "If you've always thought of me as family, then why didn't you start a college fund for me like you did for my brother? Why did you even say I wasn't your real grandson in the first place?" They stumbled over their words. My grandfather said something about how it was complicated because I wasn't biologically related to them, and they didn't want to overstep. My grandmother added that they thought my mom might not want them involved in that way. That explanation made me angrier. "You've been in my life since I was 2, I said. "You've celebrated every birthday, every Christmas, every milestone. But now you're saying you were holding back because of biology? That's not what family is supposed to be about." They didn't have much to say to that. They just kept repeating how sorry they were and how they wanted to move forward. But I couldn't shake the feeling that their apology was more about easing their own guilt than making things right with me. After that conversation, I had a long talk with my mom. She said something that really stuck with me. Forgiveness doesn't mean forgetting or excusing what they did. It just means deciding how much space you want them to take up in your life. I realized I didn't want to carry the weight of their words forever. But at the same time, I didn't feel ready to forgive them completely. I told my mom and dad that while I wasn't going to hold a grudge, I also wasn't going to pretend everything was fine just to keep the peace. With graduation approaching, my grandparents started asking my dad again if they could come. My dad came to me, clearly uncomfortable, and said, "They just want to see you graduate. They're trying to show they care." I thought about it for a while and decided to compromise. I told my dad, "They can come, but they're not sitting with us. And I don't want them acting like everything's normal. They need to respect the distance I'm setting." My dad looked relieved, but I made it clear this wasn't me forgiving them completely. "I'm doing this for you," I said, "not because I want them there." When graduation day arrived, I was nervous about seeing them. They showed up and sat in the section I'd asked my dad to reserve for extended family. They clapped when my name was called, and afterward they came up to congratulate me. I kept the interaction short. They said they were proud of me, and I thanked them politely. It wasn't the warm, heartfelt moment they probably hoped for, but it was what I felt comfortable giving. Since graduation, my relationship with my grandparents is still strained, but it's not as tense as it was before. They've been trying to show they care in small ways. Sending me a card when I got into college, asking my dad about how I'm doing. It's not perfect, but I'm taking it one step at a time. The whole experience taught me a lot about family. Sometimes, the people you consider family will disappoint you, and it's okay to set boundaries to protect yourself. Forgiveness isn't a switch you can flip. It's a process, and it happens on your terms. For now, I'm focusing on my future. My relationship with my grandparents might never be what it once was, but I'm okay with that. I've learned that being family isn't about blood. It's about showing up, supporting each other, and treating each other with love and respect. That's what I'll carry with me moving forward. Thanks for listening, Reddit. This has been a tough journey, but I feel like I'm finally finding some peace.